dynastic Egyptians are a native black population. They are dark-skinned.
So, okay, so if
They
you
are
want to say,
a melanated.
How anyone can continue to perpetuate this lie, despite an abundance of readily available data, is self-exposing. The motives of this narcissist are transparently racial and financial. There is no evidence supporting a so-called Black Egypt. It never existed. Extensive testing of Egyptian mummies, including genome-wide analyses, has consistently refuted Afrocentric claims. Notably, the earliest sequenced individual from Weret, dating to the 4th dynasty Old Kingdom, fails to align with the Afrocentric agenda. Likewise, genetic data from the Neolithic cemetery at Gaba in central Sudan contradicts them. They are the findings that Afrocentrics conspicuously avoid discussing or acknowledging. I'll keep this video brief. A quick summary in regard to 3 much overlooked Egyptian individuals. Over the past 15 years, I've presented more than enough information above and beyond to make the case clear. Afrocentrics make it too easy. It's almost a sport. Toying with them never gets old.
This is such a well-preserved mummy. It's quite amazing. You can see the skin colour there, which is probably the result of the treatment with resin. The hair, of course, is incredibly well preserved, which is very unusual because usually they shave the heads of the individuals at death. So to have this amount of hair is quite amazing. The skin, of course, is incredibly well preserved. I mean, on the hands and the foot and the face. I think the mummy dates to the 25th dynasty, they think, from the coffin, which is about 660 BC.
Features to Takabuti's skull that give ambiguous determination of ancestry. She's got a very long distance from the front of the skull to the back of the skull, which is something that is quite common in ancient Egyptians. But she also has what's called an occipital bulge, which is a bulge on the back of the skull that's more common in white European ancestry.
The first interesting point is the tips of the hair. This here is a modern cut end. As you can see, it's very straight and blunt. But Takabuti's natural ends of the hair were very similar. Now, this indicates that her hair had been cut either just before she died or after she had died. Under the light microscopy, there did appear what may have been a nit or louse egg. So if she did have nits or lice, they would have been from ancient Egypt. And we know that nits were a bother to people then as they are now, because we have remedies in papyri to treat nits.
What can we say about the colour? Because on the mummy it looks as if it's blonde, almost a red-headed blonde.
Yes, well, fortunately, when Takabuti was unwrapped, a lock of her hair was kept separate. So this hair actually looks a darker brown or auburn colour. She wouldn't have been blonde or red.
That's a shame, really. But what could you say about her ethnic background? Is there anything you can say about that from the hair?
Yes, we cross-section the hair, and there are 3 types. There's Mongoloid, Caucasian and Negroid. This is all determined by the shape the cross-section makes. And Takabuti was more Caucasian.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Quote, "The hair was in excellent preservation, being very fine, forming ringlets like those of children, and of a deep auburn shade, with not the slightest appearance of wool." End quote. The cross-sections of the hair indicated it to be Caucasian in shape. Now let's discuss her DNA. Takabuti belonged to mitochondrial subclade H4A1. The modern distribution of H4A1 is rare and sporadic and has been identified in areas including the Canary Islands, southern Iberia, and the Lebanon. H4A1 has also been reported in ancient samples from Belbeka and Unetitz contexts in Germany, as well as Bronze Age Bulgaria. It is of great importance for archaeological sciences, since a predominantly European haplogroup has been identified in an Egyptian individual in southern Egypt prior to the Roman and Greek influx of 332 BC. A 25th dynasty ancient Egyptian from Upper Egypt classified as Caucasoid with a European haplogroup to boot doesn't exactly support the Afrocentric narrative. The Negroid classification out the window with this one. Next. The remains of Queen Weret. The skeletal remains of Queen Weret belong to the 12th dynasty circa 1880 BC. The body reported here is the wife of Pharaoh Sesostris III, also known as Senusret III. He is known for expanding his kingdom into Nubia, where he erected massive river forts at Buhen, Semna, Shalfak, and Toshka. He erected the boundary stela in Semna, Nubia, and carried out at least 4 major campaigns in Nubia. Quote unquote, the sharp nasal sills indicate a Caucasoid person. Oh, and look at that dolichocephalic skull. Next. Biological sexing of a 4,000-year-old Egyptian mummy head to assess the potential of nuclear DNA recovery from the most damaged and limited forensic specimens 2018. The haplotype belongs to mitochondrial DNA lineage U5B2B5. The sequence closest to the mummies belongs to a contemporary individual from Lebanon. Related U5B2B sequences have been observed in ancient human remains from Europe, and a haplogroup U5B2C1 haplotype was recently discovered in 2,000-year-old remains from Phoenicia. When only the mitochondrial DNA sequences recovered from ancient Egyptian human remains are considered, the Jehutinacht sequence most closely resembles a U5 lineage from sample JK2903, a 2,000-year-old skeleton from Abusir el-Melek. The observed U5 lineage could potentially reflect interactions between Egypt and the Near East that date as far back as the pre-dynastic and early dynastic periods. Trade between Egypt and the Near East is evidenced by, among other things, ceramic imports to Egypt. In addition, dwellings similar to those found in Palestine suggest some immigration to Egypt from more arid Near Eastern areas from the late pre-dynastic to the Old Kingdom. In addition, dwellings similar to those found in Palestine suggest some immigration to Egypt from more arid Near Eastern areas from the late pre-dynastic to the Old Kingdom. Both trade and immigration between Egypt and the Near East continued to increase over time. Demand in Egypt for cedar of Lebanon wood led to the further establishment of trade routes between Egypt and the Levant. It is interesting, and perhaps not coincidental, that the individual with the mtDNA sequence most similar to Jehutinacht comes from a Lebanese individual. mtDNA, haplotypes recently obtained from ancient human remains from sub-Saharan Africa, belong only to haplogroup L subgroups. However, nearly all of the remains excavated in the northern part of the continent belong to Eurasian mtDNA lineages. In fact, of the 114 mtDNA genomes now available from northern African ancient human remains, only one belongs to an African lineage, L3, observed in a skeleton from Abusir el-Melek. The deep presence of Eurasian mtDNA lineages in northern Africa has therefore been clearly established with these recent reports and offers further support for the authenticity of the Eurasian mtDNA sequence observed in the Jehutinacht mummy. In the present study, Near Eastern influence has been found in an individual of high social status who lived in Upper Egypt during the Middle Kingdom. A Middle Kingdom nomarch from Upper Egypt of the late 11th to early 12th dynasty carried a European-associated haplogroup, closely matching Abusir el-Melek and Lebanese samples. This parallels the Old Kingdom Nuarat genome, which shows strong affinity with Iron Age Lachish and 26th dynasty Egyptians. Taken together, these results deal yet another decisive blow to Afrocentric claims. None of these individuals who form a cross-section of Upper Egyptians from the 11th to 25th dynasties, Queen Weret, Takabuti or Jehutinacht, fit the narrative of a black Egypt, black-skinned, black phenotype or what have you.